Today, we're going to talk about a really important and relevant topic in project management, and that's skills needed in an AI world. Every day, it feels like AI is taking over another part of our job. Status reports, meeting notes, things like that. And I see articles all the time on LinkedIn and other places that says, is the project manager role disappearing with AI? And I don't even think it's close. In fact, I think AI is making the human side of project management more important than ever. So in this video, I'm going to break down the exact skills that AI can't replace and why these skills will define the future of our practice. So stick around to the end because I'm also going to show a simple roadmap you can use to evolve your PM skills and stay ahead of the AI curve. So here's the context. AI is everywhere. It supports or automates tasks across every industry. And if it hasn't impacted you, it will very soon. Organizations are expecting faster delivery and more efficiency and smarter decision making, and AI is used for all of those things. On projects, it reduces the administrative burden, but it actually increases some of the complexity. And with teams more distributed and digitized than ever, there's more coordination challenges that we have to take. So AI has shifted the PM expectations from task manager to strategic integrators. And we'll talk about why I think PMs need to evolve. And that's the picture here with these sort of evolved wings of AI. So the role is evolving, but it's not disappearing, just to be clear. Now, tasks are becoming way more automated, which also means skills are becoming more important. So now some of the administrative tasks like status reports and meeting notes are becoming AI assisted. AI generates schedules and forecasts risks and does a lot of those other things. And I think that's good because we actually spend a significant amount of our time doing some of the administration. And I think the benefit is that it's going to free us up to do more strategic work. But with AI, it increases the need for human oversight. So some of those soft skills are no longer soft or optional. AI can't replace empathy, trust, or leadership. These are going to become critical because strategic decision making rises, and PMs still have to navigate conflict, interpret recommendations, and manage people. So our work does become actually a little more complicated. So we become the human layer of judgment, ethics, and communications in this space. And so I created this sort of 2 by 2 matrix in thinking about some of the skills with PMs. And across the left, you can see the future value of the skills with AI. And on the x-axis on the bottom, it's level of automation with AI. And so let's start at the bottom. So in the future, skills that are not as valued and incredibly highly automated, I think are going to be supplemented, right? So replaced documentation, meeting notes, basic communications, maybe the initial plan and work breakdown structure, status reporting, definitely, gathering requirements, and some of the administrative tracking. And you're probably already seeing some of these now. Now, the other bucket, and I'm not going to spend too much time here, is you've got some legacy human skills that are kind of low in automation. They're not really going to be automated, but they're also not a great future skill set like manual chasing down of things or reminding people for folks. That's why we won't spend too much time on it. The upper left here is interesting because I think these are skills that are going to be complemented or enhanced. So, like doing risk modeling, but informed by AI predictions, like faster scheduling and modeling with different scenarios that AI generates, or KPIs and dashboards, smarter resource planning, more accurate estimates, and definitely enhanced communication drafting. And again, I don't think these are replaced, but I also don't think they're fully done with AI. That's why I say they're complemented. But then if you go all the way in the upper right, and this is where we're going to spend the bulk of the time, is I think these are skills that are critical in the future with AI and can't really be automated. Leadership and team motivation, negotiation and conflict resolution, decision making under uncertainty, stakeholder influence, managing politics, right? There's always going to be organizational politics, ethical judgment, and adaptability in dynamic environments. So we're going to go into each of these, talk about why they're still needed, and then give examples of how they're used in an AI environment. So the first one I talked about is leadership and team motivation. AI can't build trust or belonging or a sense of culture. Teams look for that clarity and purpose on the teams and motivation, right? Because that requires encouragement and motivation yields better outcomes. People still need support adapting to these new tools because of the amount of change that is being introduced in the environment. And as I mentioned, culture can't be automated, so leaders have to help teams navigate the fear of AI replacing their roles. And at the end, human follows leaders, not algorithms. So what that means for an AI world, that means we're going to be leading teams where humans and AI agents work together. I absolutely believe this is happening in the next year. We're going to have AI generated colleagues that we work with, not just AI ask a question or it generates an activity. They will be colleagues on the PMO performing project related activities and in our projects. So we have to coach our teams to use AI responsibly. We have to inspire teams about the creativity and judgment, not just take whatever AI says. We have to guide the people through the change and reinforce those behaviors and continually champion learning so that the team adapts to the evolving technology. The second skill is negotiation and conflict, right? You're on projects. Projects mean conflicts. Projects mean challenges, right? Because generally they span organizations and there's different leaders, and AI can't manage the tension or the emotions or the political undercurrents of organizations, right? And we've all worked on teams and organizations, and you know that politics are a real thing that have real implications. And conflicts usually stem from human ego, not data or priorities. And so this negotiation requires empathy, it requires building relationships, and the conversations rely on tone and timing. So compromises, right, require right, persuasion, trust, credibility. And conflict, the punchline is conflict's not logical and AI is. So, what does that mean in an AI world? That means we're going to be resolving issues that might be triggered by differing interpretations of AI outputs. We might have to negotiate when AI forecasts some sort of conflict with expectations, right? It's an indicator that we then have to go and facilitate and negotiate. We might have to mediate between teams that have different levels of AI adoption or trust. We're going to be using those insights as inputs, not as verdicts, right? We can't just take what it says. We have to apply some insights and some critical thinking and balance that data-driven arguments with emotional intelligence and awareness. And at the end, it's about relationships, right? And fostering them when AI decisions frustrate the teams. The third critical skill is decision making under uncertainty. And yes, AI can make recommendations, but it struggles when data is incomplete, it's contradictory, or it's new. And a lot of our projects have so many factors that AI can't possibly account for all of them. And these project decisions involve ambiguity or politics or judgment calls. And as mentioned, the model can't fully understand the context, the history, some of the politics within an organization. And so leadership also requires accountability. And remember, AI can make recommendations, but it can't own the outcomes. And so a lot of times on projects, there's also unprecedented situations in the marketplace. Think COVID, think geopolitical things that require intuition and experience. And so what that means in an AI world, that means we have to evaluate the recommendations instead of blindly accepting them. Make judgment calls when the outputs conflict with reality. Understanding and recognizing those flawed assumptions, and this requires experience and knowing when something is incorrect. Using the AI to inform the scenarios, but we still make the final call. And managing risk when AI can't see the whole picture, and making forward-looking decisions that AI can't model. The fourth essential skill is stakeholder influence and managing politics. I've mentioned politics a few times. AI can't navigate political dynamics and power dynamics and personalities, right? And a lot of times stakeholders want conversation, not just messages. So the influence requires building those relationships, building the credibility and trust. Whereas, politics very often impact project success more than data. And this is where AI is sort of blind to some of these politics. And it can't interpret the tone or culture because influence is emotional, it's relational, and we need to recognize that. So what that means in an AI world, that means we can use the insights to tell stories, but we are the ones who have to guide the stakeholders through the fear and the skepticism or unrealistic expectations. We're the ones that need to ensure that decisions remain aligned to the strategy and not just what the data says. We have to mediate between the stakeholders who interpret the outcomes differently and help them understand the biases or limitations in AI. In the end, we have to use influence to keep humans in the decision seat, not AI. The fifth essential skill is ethical judgment. AI, I read somewhere, it's one of my favorite quotes, and I apologize, I don't remember who said it, but AI can do anything except for say no. So AI will answer the questions that you ask it. But it can reinforce bias, discrimination, or unfair recommendations, and there's dozens of studies that suggest that this is the case. And so some of these ethical considerations go beyond what the data can detect, and someone has to take responsibility for that, right? Nobody's going to sue an AI model, they're going to sue companies and people. And AI can be misused, sometimes intentionally, sometimes accidentally. And ethical dilemmas, more times than not, involve humans, not algorithms. So this is a whole new consideration we didn't even have to think about a couple of years ago. But in this new world, we have to assess the recommendations if they're fair and unbiased. We have to decide when not to use it due to ethical implications, create the right guidelines for responsible use of AI on the project, escalate concerns when the outputs conflict with organizational or team values, and hold the teams accountable for the safe and appropriate AI usage. And there's adaptability in dynamic environments. Projects are already complex, business is already accelerating, and AI accelerates this change because there's new tools, there's data, there's processes emerging constantly. If you follow, it's really hard to keep up with all the tools and all the new techniques out there. Well, teams need PMs that can guide them through those changes. And the adoption itself is a change, right? And it's a management challenge. So we have to navigate the surprises, the uncertainty, and evolving expectations. And the adaptability reduces the fear and increases team confidence. Look, if you've been in project management as long as I have, 30 years, there's constant change. And so AI, the fact that it's bringing change isn't new. And I think we still have to react to it the way we always did. It's just the speed and at which it's making the change is what's new. So we have to learn and adapt to the tools as much as we can. And that means reworking the plans because we know things are going to change. But we have to stay calm and decisive when the systems are wrong and encourage experimentation and iterative improvement. We have to continually adjust our workflows as AI becomes more integrated into those workflows and become the stabilizing force when the technology accelerates chaos, because it will and it has. So I mentioned the 6 skills that I believe are going to be essential in this new environment. How to evolve some of those skills? Well, first, just learn how the tools work. Not technically, you don't have to get into the code base and so on, but functionally, what are the capabilities? And practice interpreting the outputs. I've mentioned this so many times, but I can't tell you the number of people I see who are just completely replacing their work with AI as opposed to complementing it, and they just take the outputs and they pass it along. And I'm telling you, those people are not going to be successful. We have to recognize how to interpret the outputs and apply judgment and experience rather than just accepting them. We're going to have to become stronger leaders and communicators and influencers. Now, the good news is AI should free up our time to do that because we're not doing now the administrative things that were taking a significant amount of our time. But that means becoming comfortable with rapid experimentation, just trying things out and focusing on the values and the outcomes over just managing the tasks. We're going to have to be comfortable with change. And if we've been on projects, I suspect this is a skill that most of us have. And leading into the creativity, we are the human complement to it. And again, the picture on the left here, we are going to be in teams that are made up of human-based agents, or carbon-based agents. That's one of my favorite terms somebody coined, and AI-based agents. So here's a quick roadmap. It's meant to be directional. Take it for what it's worth in sort of 3 horizons to stay ahead of the curve. The first horizon is around just strengthening the foundation in the first 3 months. So framing your work in terms of the value and not the tasks, because we know the tasks are going to change. Embracing AI and using it as a co-pilot. What can we offload? Meeting minutes, development of plans, updating of logs, things like that. We can use AI to help our messages. We can move to more AI assisted planning tools, and most project management tools are now integrating it into their platforms. Focusing on listening and reading team morale because it's going to be important as AI impacts the team more and more, and critical thinking. Again, not just taking AI, but challenging the outputs. Does this make sense? Does this pass sort of the sniff test, if you will? So then in Horizon 2, now you're going to evolve into a more modern PM, which is you're going to run these value-based projects, which requires using dashboards driven with AI metrics and facilitate stakeholder alignment through stakeholder negotiations that are informed by AI-generated data. We're going to become way better at communication, becoming a communication architect and tailoring our messages. We're strengthening our adaptability and shifting between the tools. And I think we're going to start leading those hybrid teams, the AI and the human work streams. And I talked about the critical thinking. And then Horizon 3 in sort of beyond the year is now we're turning strategy into outcomes. We're influencing through trust. We're becoming the PM that sees around the corner because we're leveraging AI as well as the skill sets that we bring to the table. We're going to be much better at complex communications with narrative alignments and so on. We've built high trust teams that recognize that AI is part of their team, but still has the culture and the motivation and the resilience to get the work done. And we're going to use AI to make strategic calls, but that are, again, complemented with our own experience. So, something to think about in terms of sort of this step model of improving skill sets over time. So look, here's the punchline. I think we're more important than ever in this model. And you can see now we're sort of crossing the bridge from the old model with lots of papers and slow time to the new model, but we have our evolved AI supported wings that are taking us to this new realm. AI is going to automate the tasks, but not the leadership, the judgment, or the relationships. So we need to evolve from a task manager to a strategic navigator, to an influencer, to a motivator. And some of those high valued skills I talked about are becoming critical. And I think I made the case for why that's the case. AI is going to be a partner, it's not a replacement. And successful PMs are going to be the ones who combine our own insight and experience with the AI intelligence. But I really believe this statement: AI won't replace the PMs, but the PMs who use and embrace AI will likely replace the PMs who don't. And the question is, which side do you want to be on? Put some comments in here. I'm really curious about your thoughts and reactions, but thanks for watching.